Hola, Vincenzo.
Lali, how are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
Good, good, good. It's just I'm a little cold, so if I keep shaking, it's because I'm freezing.
I actually am a little toasty right now because I had to crank up the heat in my place to like 1000 because it's so cold here as well. So,
It's quite the problem living up in the northern states, or you're in the North Country,
uh,
as they say, as Bob Dylan said.
as Bob Dylan said, I am the girl from the North Country. And in Canada, we like to say we the North. And definitely we are the North.
Yeah, yeah. All right, Jon Snow. Yeah, but here, thankfully, we won't have to be in the cold for much longer because in a couple weeks we'll be at Daytona
We will
for the
be.
Rolex 24. Even though it's like, I think it's only gonna be like 65 degrees Fahrenheit. That is going to be like a heat wave
That is like,
I think, what is it for you? 8 degrees Fahrenheit at the moment.
yep, 8 degrees Fahrenheit. That's like minus 13, minus 15 Celsius for my Celsius people. And it is 65 seems like a nice summer day to me right now,
Oh
so I
yeah,
will take it. I will take
sounds.
it.
I'm going to bring my bathing suit.
Listen,
Joking.
when we ended up and we crowned Lando Norris as champion, that seemed like far away. The season was starting far away, but now we're like
Yeah.
kind of stuff is happening. We have car reveals coming, we have testing coming up, Barcelona, and then in the Middle East. So I thought that this would be a really good time to talk about the fact that there are a ton of drivers out of contract at the end of this year. So it's kind of unheard of. So usually there's a few here and there. There is an inordinate amount out of contract. And I love this because I think that specifically this season with the new car, with the new regulations, the new aero, the new power unit, it's
Hmm.
going to be sort of like, I don't know, think about it like a referendum of the drivers, right? Because some of them will adapt really well to the new car and some of them won't. So by mid-season, and that's when we start hearing about the silly season in F1, right? Sort
Yep.
of toward this break. By then, we're gonna know who has adapted to the car. Even if the car's underperforming, we'll know who's like giving it their max and who's extracting the maximum out of the car and who is struggling. And that's when the teams have to make the decisions. Hey, are we gonna like renew this guy, stability for a couple years, or is it gonna be like coaching season and we're gonna see who's gonna um steal drivers from other teams and be like, "Oh, that
Yeah.
guy figured it out. Let's bring him over," right? So I'm calling it the referendum year. What do you think?
Referendum year it is. What Lali says goes. If it's the referendum year, it is the referendum year. I'm with you on that one. I like it. We crown it the referendum year. Well, none of these contracts are really like, the thing with the contracts is multi-year. You don't really know. Are there options? Are they extensions? True like Leclerc, the details are like unknown, right? I think Lewis Hamilton was such a, like, we knew a lot about his deal with Ferrari just because it was such a big deal. But I think a lot of these contracts are very similar, right? Yep, it's through this year. There might be an option, or, like you said, it's let's see what happens sort of thing. The problem or the challenge with the pinnacle of motorsport is that you do need to perform year in and year out, and you have to be at the peak. And if you're not for one season, you could be gone the next. And, you see it more with the lower tiered teams, the back of the grid, because, they're trying to strike gold on some of these guys. But um, yeah, I think it's something like 60% of the grid is going to be either out of contract or have an option for 27. So yeah, let's go ahead. Let's take it from the top.
So I'll throw you some names. Speaking of guys who, in my opinion, didn't really even adapt to last year's car, Franco Colapinto,
Mm.
he could be out of contract. I don't see this guy getting another drive in F1 if Alpine
Yeah.
doesn't renew him. So I think his best bet would take his Mercado Libre money and go to Formula E, perhaps. I don't see him in F1 if he's out of contract. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I think you're right. It's the thing is, they selected him. They swapped him in for Jack Doohan, what, like midway through 25, and then
No, like 2 races in or three. It was embarrassing.
they picked him over Paul Aaron as well. He does bring money, which we know is important. He does bring the Argentinian fan base, which is also important. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a do or die for him. And this is, like we say, the stakes are very high in Formula One. The seats are limited. This is a do or die. do or die for Colapinto. That's my take. He's got to show something, or else he's probably not going to ever have another shot again.
Okay, now we're going to go to our Aston Martin friends. We're going to do Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll.
Mm,
Alonso, everyone knows he's been saying it all over the place. If the car's good, he might retire because he wants to leave on a good note. If the car sucks, he probably will stay long to try to end on a high note. I don't
yeah.
see how, if the car sucks, he'll put up with another circus of 24
Mm.
races. Rumor is he's expecting his first child. So I don't know how that will play into it. I do remember vividly in Suzuka 2005 when he did that pass on Schumacher and he said, I knew I could brake later because he has a wife and 2 kids at home. So now how the tables are turned, now he's going to be the one with the baby at home. Let's see how that affects his driving or his decision even to stay on a little longer. What's your take?
I think the decision is the car, right? Where it revolves around what new he's created. And if this is some championship winning car, I think Alonso sticks around. If it's a dog from the get go and there's no hope, like does he stick? Does he continue trying and aiming for another championship level car? He's going to be, what is he, 45? Yeah, so he's pushing 50 at this point. Somebody like Stroll, Lawrence, has to say, all right, we need to get this moving here because we can't just keep filling a seat. I mean, he's doing the same thing with his son, so it's like, are you just gifting these seats to people because I don't know, is it working? If it works for you, great, but you have to perform at some point, right? Sponsors and whatnot will start to quickly go elsewhere if they don't see an end in sight. Alonso, it's a sexy pick, right? Like, oh yeah, Fernando Alonso, 2-time champion. Like, not many teams can say they have a champion on the grid right now. Right? In fact, there was like 3 teams that can actually say that. Well, 4, I guess, if you include Aston Martin
Lewis, Max, Lando, and Fernando 4.
and Fernando. So you have 4 champions on the grid, 4 teams. There's 7 other teams that don't have a champion on it. So okay, it's good for marketing, but come on, if you, I think he still has it, and that's the what's holding him there.
Right.
If he loses it after he has a kid and he becomes a father, then we'll know right away. But I like this for him. If Newey and the Honda unit can really give them, hope of a car that can compete, this is going to be it for Alonso. So 26, will we see him in 27? If this car can give him something, yeah, I think we will.
We'll see. Okay. His teammate, Lance Stroll. In my opinion, this comes down obviously to Papa Stroll, but I also think that at some
Say
point,
no more.
Lance has to have like some sort of existential crisis of shame and maybe have a talk with himself. Is he the guy for the job, right? Is he the guy? He's probably putting a lot of pressure on his father. His father's probably,
Mm.
justifying his existence day in and day out in boardrooms. Maybe he says, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go to WEC. I'm going to go to IMSA. Where, listen, I always say this, Lance had a really good junior Formula career. The guy has something. Not many people can get a Formula One car around the track at speed, etc. So he could have a really good career elsewhere. So I do think that the Stroll thing comes up to him deciding for himself. I don't think his dad will kick him out of the seat. I think Lance has to decide for himself.
We're in agreement there. Next.
Eto, a bit of a revelation from 2025. He's sort of Audi long term. I don't see
Yeah.
how Audi get rid of him if he's delivering.
Yeah, but he's got
Yeah,
to
he's an
deliver,
ascending
right?
tangent.
He's got to deliver at this point.
Yeah.
These young guys, they have to perform because there's so many other younger drivers that are upcoming that can fill the seats. When we know that, can fill the seats that might give better opportunity. Like we just, know. But he does have a shot here, so we'll see what he does with it. Hopefully, they can give him a car that's decent as well. But for now, I think they're going to be stuck in the back, like Cadillac as a new contender.
Yeah. So that brings me to his teammate, Nico Hulkenberg, who has been on the
Mm,
record that he may retire, he may not. If he's happy coming to the paddock and he's enjoying himself, why would he leave? I think he's consistently solid. He's reliable. I think he's good for Audi to partner with a younger guy. I don't think I don't know if Audi doesn't renew his contract. I don't know if another team would I don't know if he'll circulate again through another team. He's been
yeah.
on a lot of teams. But I think if the car's good and he's performing, he typically can extract more from a car than the car has to give. He's that kind of a racer. So I think if it's going well, he stays with Audi. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think he's locked up there for the near future, maybe even into his 40s if possible. Like he's a German driver. There's no other German driver right now, right? There's no other German. I'm trying to think of any
Going through the
others
grid.
that
I'm doing the same. I'm going through the grid.
like there's no other German driver even maybe on the come up or close enough to say like okay. So it would be it's I think that's what Audi wants as well. You know, they want to have a German leading the project and they've put together a really good team around the drivers. So yeah, I can't see why they would want to move on from him anytime soon. And it's his choice. But I think it could be we could see him into his, at least early 40s on this project.
We're in agreement. So we move on to Ollie Behrman. I have a little soft spot for him. He's so sweet
Love
and love.
Ollie.
He's like a little teddy bear kind of guy, but he's quite tall. So obviously a known Ferrari asset. He's with Haas, sort of training. He's doing his training, his apprenticeship for Ferrari at Haas. I think he stays at Haas unless for some miracle Leclerc or Lewis jump ship, perhaps, and then that's the only opportunity I see him moving into the big team. Otherwise, I don't see him going to another engine. And obviously, there's no place for him at Cadillac, so I think he stays at Haas.
Yeah, I think, for now at least, he'll be there. I do think there is a world where Lewis retires and he goes to Ferrari, right? But it's not this year at least. And then if the car is not good and Lewis is out, does Behrman even want to go there in 27? But I do think there's still an opportunity for him there. But that window could be closing also for him because there are others that Ferrari may want to go after: Oscar Piastri, Max Verstappen, maybe Kimi Antonelli. Like there are other options that may materialize as like you said, silly season pops up and all of a sudden all the logic goes out the window and they want other drivers. Even the Lewis thing with Ferrari, I remember when that dropped, seemed I don't want to say illogical, but it seemed like it was very shocking at the time. Obviously now everyone's like, oh my God, it was a terrible move. Okay, hindsight is 2020. Yeah, so I think that could be that type of situation for Behrman as well. It is like it is gonna be reliant on where Lewis is, and then if Leclerc ends up moving, then you've realistically could have two seats there that are different. But the Ferrari seats are interesting because they really need to win.
Mm-hmm.
Behrman would be a young second driver. I don't think he's at that echelon yet. Like solid number two like a Bottas or a Perez that were a very good number two to help their number one guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he needs a team leader to support him and sort of mentor him.
Of course.
I'm going now to everyone's best friend, Bestie Esteban Ocon. I think he stays at Haas. I think that's easy. If the car's performing, I think he stays there. I also think that if Haas were to go in a different direction, he still has a future on the grid. He's a guy that he's reliable. He's a good benchmark for teammates. I think he'd be good at other teams as a leader with a rookie teammate. So I don't think, even if Haas were to go a different way, I don't think we've seen the last of Esteban Ocon.
Yeah, I think there's definitely, like you said, there's a place for him on the grid. Solid driver. He's kind of in like, mediocre cars right now. So it's hard to really put a barometer on him, but we know how he can perform. We know what he can do. And we know he's not afraid to push it. We know he's not afraid to do things that are a little different when he has to. And I think he can extract the most from a car. So yeah, he is a good fit. I would like to see him in a better car, unless Haas is suddenly good, but let's not hold our breath. So Esteban should be around for the foreseeable future, whether it's with Haas or with somebody else. I mean, I always thought the second Ferrari spot could have been his at some point, but that was before Lewis came around. I thought that was if one of the two left, which obviously Sainz left, I thought Ocon could end up there at some point. But
Okay. I'm going to move on to your fratello, Andrea Kimi Antonelli. I think he's safe.
I don't.
Unless Toto gets his dream. Wait, so I have a take here. Unless Toto gets his dream of getting Max, because there's been rumors and whispers that he's courting Max. But at the same time, if Toto brings Max in, does he burn the bridge forever with his real life bestie Lewis Hamilton? So I don't know how that would work out. And then are you going to have Max and George Russell on the same team? I think that would be an absolute disaster. So that means Russell would be out as well. So I don't know how this plays out. So for now, I'm going to say Antonelli is pretty safe at
Yeah.
Mercedes.
Kimi's safe. Toto loves him. I think he really came on strong. He still had his moments. He's 18 years old. Let's be real. You can't expect,
I know he's a baby.
tons from him. And jumping into a car the last year of its development cycle, what do you expect? Yeah, I think he's safe. I think he's safe. It will be interesting though to see if Russell makes a move away, but it will depend on the power unit, and it will depend on if Mercedes is good. We're hearing all these rumors about Mercedes and the Red Bull power units having loopholes and all this other stuff. And so, like, are they just really
Juice?
good, or is it all smoke and mirrors right now?
Yeah.
Be interesting.
So we're going to move on to the aforementioned George Russell. I think he stays at Mercedes. He's obviously a known quantity there. That he's someone you can build a team around. He's a great mentor for Kimi.
Mm.
But let's say in some hypothetical scenario that Toto gets Max or gets some other like dream driver that he's been salivating over. Then I was thinking like where would George fit in? And I thought Aston Martin, because you could lose Alonso there, right? So he would like sort of swoop in as a team leader with a younger driver, and that would be a really nice reset and refresh team, especially if the 26 car is legit. That would be a nice place for him to land. So that's the only place I can see him landing. Maybe you have another take.
No, I kind of think George might be and again, I'm going to say that a lot of these people might be fits at Ferrari. Not a lot, but I think there could be a world where he fits there as well. But yeah, George, I don't know. I think he's safe for now. I think I don't think he's going anywhere. Again, like you said, if Toto has a shot at Max Verstappen, a real one, then everything all hell breaks loose. But aside from that, I mean, George definitely proved that he was a top 3 driver on the grid last year.
Super
He really
consistent.
did. And this is coming from someone who's not a George Russell fan. I like him, but I was never really a big fan, but he really showed a lot last year. He was super consistent. He was probably one of the more, I don't have the exact stats and numbers in front of me, but he was definitely one of the more consistent drivers on the grid, even more so than Max, and probably even more so than Oscar. He was very consistent. And in a car that was not, it was maybe the second best car. Well, we know it was at least the second best. Third, early in the season, it might have been a little bit lower. Like, I think he proved himself, and Toto would be foolish to move on from that without having someone locked in like a Max Verstappen. And there really would be nobody else, I think, that you could put in that seat that would bounce George. Maybe Lando, but I don't know that Toto is like a Lando guy. So
what about the return of Lewis Hamilton? Boom, boom, boom. Oh my goodness. Wouldn't that be like the
I think
peak of
Lewis
the
retires. No,
I
Lewis
think
will retire.
I'll tell you something, as an avid, as you know, legend in fantasy Formula One, George Russell was an incredible asset all year. He performed really well. So that to me shows that a guy was consistent, as if he's a good asset for me. I'm
Plug and
gonna move
play. You put him in.
plug and play. I'm gonna move on to Liam Lawson, who I think is in the swan song of his career, unless he performs at Racing Bulls this
Yeah.
year. I don't see him somebody being like, oh, I want to poach Liam Lawson from the Racing Bulls.
No.
So I think this is pretty much a make or break season for him.
I'll say, the move to Racing Bulls actually proved to be a blessing for him, because we saw how Tsunoda's not even racing, in Formula One now this year. So, blessing in disguise. And he definitely at least secured a future for 26. He's going to have to show a lot though. And now he's got a rookie next to him, Linbod. If he if he can't, if he can't outperform the rookie all year, the only rookie that's going to be on the grid this year, then he's done. So hopefully it's a good confidence boost for him to be racing aside a rookie, and it gives him the opportunity to, beat his teammate out. But other than that, I mean, he's going to have to really show that he's got something, because last year wasn't the best for him. But he had there were some bright moments at times. It was definitely better off in that car than he was in the Red Bull, for sure. And we all know how the Red Bull chews you up and spits you out. But yeah, I mean, again,
It wasn't memorable.
nice enough, but not memorable enough to keep around.
So we'll talk about Lindblad, the rookie you just mentioned, who's going to be teaming up with Liam Lawson. I think the dude performs. He gets a 2-year extension. It's a no-brainer. Keep him in the Red Bull family. Sort of prime him for the big bull. I don't think there's much there. I don't.
No,
So everyone's favorites.
it's performance based here.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna move on to everyone's favorite new Frenchman, Isaac Hajar. He's moved on now to the big bull. We'll see how that goes. I'm hoping that now that Christian and Helmut are gone, that this isn't a situation where the kid has 3 races to prove himself and then he gets demoted. Because they're certainly not going to put Lindblad in the car, and they're certainly not going to put Liam
No,
Lawson in the car. So I think that Isaac will have the whole season to prove himself, to use Max Verstappen as a benchmark. And if he performs, I think they keep him there to sort of, especially if there's whispers of
absolutely.
Max leaving, they'd want a known quantity there as well.
Absolutely. I think Isaac, he at least earned himself another season and maybe even another season, right? Through 27. Like the first year in a regulation set, we have no idea what to expect. We don't know how the car, like we're hearing, there's so many things I hear from engineers that are like, this regulation set is terrible. The car, like cars are going to suck, all this kind of stuff. You hear all these rumors and you're like, okay, well, if that's the case, then maybe some of these drivers are going to have more of an opportunity. And like you said, Horner's not there, Helmut's not there. He may be given a little more grace than he would have in the past, which great for him because I think he's definitely one of, if not the most promising younger of that group. So I would love to see him succeed. That would be great if he could hang with Max a little bit, push him a little bit more. Fingers crossed for him. But yeah, big fan. I think he at least deserves a seat through 27 at this point, just from how he performed
And
last
Max
season.
is sort of on the record as being really against them just destroying a guy's morale and pulling him out of the team and sending him to the junior team. Like Max is on the record, he doesn't like that. And now with
Yeah,
Christian and Helmut gone, maybe Max will get more saying like, no, we don't do
for
that to a.
sure.
So okay. We are gonna move on to Alexander Albon. His
Oh,
end
finish
date
up
is,
with the Williams.
it could be 26, it could be 27, like, but let's say it's 26. I think he performs, he stays at Williams. But I have a little take, perhaps, that if Hulk retires, I think that would be a nice place, Audi for Albon, so they have a more senior driver to mentor Bortoleto. That's sort of my take.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I actually really like what Williams is doing. They've got the rebrand. They've got a nice big title partner now. They seem to have their identity back. They've got Albon and Sainz together, who are both on these multi-year signs as at least through 26. I mean, Sainz, the latter half of the year was one of the better drivers on the grid. I mean, he was pushing pole oftentimes, right? He was fighting there during qualifying.
Yeah.
Like, and I think Albon is a very good, great, not great, but he's a good driver, and the pairing is great, which is important, right? They seem to work together well. Very important for Williams, I think, for where Williams is at, and they're starting to come back, which I please hope it happens, right? I want Williams to be fighting for the top again. I want them to be a top 4 constructor again, top 3 constructor again. Yeah, I think this duo stays in place. I don't see them moving. And I actually could see a world where Carlos chooses to stay at Williams because he likes what they're building as opposed to jumping somewhere else. And, it is more cutthroat. Like, let's hypothesize for a second. He gets offered, let's just say, the seat at Red Bull or maybe a Mercedes seat. Would he take it? Of course, money talks and opportunities talk, but also we have seen where drivers make jumps that they think are going to be fruitful, and then it ends up being the worst decision of their life. Lewis Hamilton,
Ricardo's call.
Daniel Ricciardo, Fernando Alonso, like these drive, to an extent, you have Sebastian Vettel. Like, you make these moves thinking, okay, all that glitters is gold, and then it's not, right? It's fool's gold. And I like what Williams is. I really, really like what Williams is doing, and I really like the two of those guys together. I hope that they stay together and they just keep. It's one of those stories too. Like, for me, it's a story you feel like you can follow and like they keep building, right? Let's take Red Bull, for example. If you're a newer fan, you may not follow Red Bull because you're like, okay, well, there's Max and then there's like whoever they decide to put in, and then they treat that second guy kind of poorly, and I don't know who I'm following. With they're coming back as like this underdog, this punchy, like, hey, we've been down in the dumps. We have a lot of history, which is really important. And now we've got these two drivers that a lot of people like you can't hate those guys. and it
Impossible
just
to make
gives you someone to root for, right?
exactly.
So yeah, I could see both of these guys sticking around past their, if their contracts are end of 26, I could see them sticking on beyond that.
I think I really like James Valls. Since his Mercedes, I love him, and I do think that he has put together two guys that have a lot of synergy. They get along. They're not like out to trash each other. It seems like it's actually a really nice cohesive environment
Mhm.
there. They're both very likable. Carlos Sainz specifically is so marketable, right? The guy is very handsome. He's very well liked, and he seems really happy. Even when he scored that podium, he said, "This is the best podium of my life," and he's won
Yeah.
races, you know. So
Yeah.
for him to say that is a big deal. How sweet it tasted because it's like the little engine that could this team, right? And it's such a legacy team. So I agree with you. I think both guys stay. I think James Valls would be silly not to resign them both. I
100%.
don't think Sainz will make the mistake. I think he's seen too many in his cohort make the mistake of going to another team and regretting it deeply. So I think this guy's like in it and he believes in Project Williams. And yeah, let's hope they stick around for a while. I love that duo. Guess what? That's the end of the list of guys who we're
Felt like we talked about everybody on the grid.
pretty certain out of contract. Guess what? One of my favorite things on earth is talking drivers and racing with you. So thank you for indulging me in this episode because this is my favorite thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, it is very much a business, and I think that the drivers' contracts where they are, the money that they pull and they carry to different teams is very important, right? So yeah, being out of a contract, and if you are a promising driver or if you have sponsorship, Bortoleto, Colapinto, like they bring or they bring a region with them. Zhou Guanyu was a perfect example of that, and is a great example. Like he just got signed with Cadillac as the reserve driver. He left Federati and he's over at Cadillac, and great move for Cadillac, right? From a business perspective, you've got someone who he's the Chinese driver. China's a market for F1 that is growing, and he's the only Chinese driver on the grid.
Yeah.
And
Well, he's not on the grid,
he,
but he's grid adjacent, let's say.
grid. I still consider the reserve guys like on the grid because they could be bumped into service at any point, and we've seen it happen.
It's interesting. Back in the day when we first started watching F1, I feel like there was more like broken wrists and ankles, like the reserve drivers.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
these cars are so safe that
Now it's like you have to burst an appendix in order for someone to, fill a seat. But
and even then, Sainz is back a week later. The poor guy's like, "Give me a chance in the car."
Yeah.
Sainz is hobbling back into the paddock with, they just such a hunger. But yeah, exactly. The contracts are part of the economy because also if you can get in on a guy like Bortoleto, you get him cheap, as they say, and you lock him in at a really good rate, plus all the millions he brings in sponsorship, and he performs for your team. That's such a smart business decision, right? So yeah, the contracts are a very important part of the business ecosystem of racing.
And we talk about it all the time with our guests too on the show. Like what's more important, or maybe not even what's more important, but what is the percentage now that you have to weigh a driver's performance versus their marketability, the money they bring in, the audience they can bring in? And it is a real shift. I mean, I'm not going to, and we see it. We actually see it. So we don't even need to really ask that question. The product of the grid tells you what that answer is when you see drivers that are in seats simply because they bring money. And this is nothing new for motorsport. So for those of you that are newer to motorsport, newsflash, there's money is huge. And
remember, we used to call them paid drivers. They don't use that term anymore, but that was the term for decades, paid driver.
But you have drivers in the grid right now that could be considered that.
Yes.
Right. And no shade. It is
we
what it is.
We named a few today, actually.
Of course. And so I think that's really, really crucial to the conversation to understand the economics behind what you can do. We talked about it with Connor Daly in the first episode of this season. And he said, he talks about how much money you need to race in these series, how if you don't have the money, it's even hard to even go to a team to say like, hey, I would, to give me a seat. So, and that's, that's IndyCar, but can you imagine what it's like in Formula One? There's other series, WEC, all these other series where you have to bring something to the table. And if you can't, I talked to, I ran into Tony Breitinger, who races in NASCAR, ran her in Vegas. Same thing. You know, she's like, yeah, I got to bring all this money to the table. That's why she does all of the other stuff on the side. Like her modeling career is taking off because maybe she can't build up enough dollars for the seat, or, you know, it's like that everywhere. So if you're new to motorsports, that is probably one of the biggest hurdles for drivers. Anyway, so I think this is a fascinating conversation. I'm with you. I like talking about it. And silly season's probably one of the best parts of the season on the business side, because
we'll
a lot of bouncing around.
We'll do a follow-up episode to this later when silly season actually starts. We'll see which of our takes were right.
Perfect. I like it.
Thank you for listening, everyone. See you on the next one.
Ciao.
Ciao.